All right, hello everyone. We are getting into section 3.2, which is solutions and graphs of linear equations, okay? So the very first thing they're gonna ask you to do is they're gonna give you the equation and they're gonna ask you to complete the ordered pair, okay? So, given the equation, 2x plus 3y equals 6. Complete the following ordered pairs. Now, and it also says, so they will be solutions. If I can write, that would help. Solutions to the equation, and they're going to give us 0. We have a lovely question mark. We're going to have another question mark and 1, and we're going to have one more of 3 and question mark. So I also want to go ahead and let you guys know too, I believe I forgot for the first video, everything I'm doing is from the PDF notes that I sent to you. So if for some reason you can't read something I have on here, they're also in the PDFs, okay? So just keep that in mind. All right, so we have the equation 2x plus 3y equals 6. We need to complete the following ordered pairs. Remember this from the first section. This is an ordered pair, right? All three of those are ordered pairs. So they're giving us half the ordered pair. We're solving for the other half, okay? If you also remember, the first part of an ordered pair was our x coordinate, right? So this was our x. So we are going to be solving for the y. We don't know what the y is, okay? That's what we're solving for. So we are going to use substitution that we've done previously in other chapters, and we're going to substitute 0 in for x, and we're going to solve for y, okay? So here we have 2 times 0 plus 3y equals 6, right? So all we're doing is substituting, solving for y. So we just finished this up in another chapter. So then we're going to go ahead and start to solve. So 2 times 0 is 0, right? It goes away. So we're going to be bringing down our plus 3y equals 6. Remember to do the opposite operations. This is 3 times y, so we're going to be dividing both sides by 3. So y is equal to 2. 6 divided by 3 is 2. So that's one of our answers. So one of our answers is 0, 2. Okay? All right, we need to go ahead and work on this ordered pair. So this time we are solving for x, and they gave us the y value as being 1, okay? So we're going to substitute that once again into our original equation. So this time we have 2x plus 3 times 1 is 6, and we're going to start solving. So now I have 2x plus 3 times 1 is 3 equals 6. Remember, I want everything moved to the other side of the equal sign that does not have an x attached to it. Remember, use the opposite operations. This is plus 3, so we need to subtract 3. What you do to one side, you must do to the other side, okay? So 3 minus 3 cancels, right? That's our goal. Make sure you bring down the 2x. Equals 6 minus 3 is 3. Now I have 2 times x, so we need to go ahead and divide both sides by 2. So x is equal to 3 halves, okay? So our ordered pair would be 3 halves, comma, 1, okay? All right, we have one more left. So this time they gave us the x value, and we're solving for y, okay? All right, so here I have 2 times 3 plus 3y equals 6. So 2 times 3 is 6, plus 3y is 6. Next, we would subtract 6 on both sides, so 6's cancel. But if you notice, the 6's also cancel here. That's okay. We're going to bring down our 3y equals 0. Divide both sides by 3. So remember our rule we talked about before. We can divide 0 by any number, but we cannot divide by 0. So 0 divided by 3 is 0. So our answer here would be 3, comma, 0. Okay, so that's how you would accomplish this type of problem. There's another example in your notes that you can follow along with, okay? But it's the same concept. Remember, this stuff is going to be online. This lecture will be online, so you can review it as many times as you need for the explanation. Okay, so the next thing we're going to be doing is we're going to learn how to complete tables so that we can use that to graph. We're going to be learning multiple ways to graph. This is going to be one of them, okay? All right, so they're going to tell you to complete the table for 3x minus 2y equals 12. Okay, so that's 3x minus 2y equals 12. And sometimes they're going to go ahead and give you a table with some values. So this one we have a 0, we have a 3, we have a 0, and we have a negative 3. So we're going to have to find the unknown variable, or the unknown solutions, right, for our coordinates, either for the x-coordinate or the y-coordinate. Okay, solving for those variables. So what you're going to do is you're going to substitute that in for the variables here, right? We've already done this. We just did a problem. So we're going to go ahead and start with x is 0. So I now have 3 times 0 minus 2y is 12. So 3 times 0 cancels. We're left with a negative 2y. Make sure you bring the negative down. Equals 12. From here, remember from before, we would divide both sides by negative 2. So 12 divided by negative 2 is negative 6. So we can go ahead and substitute that into our table. So our first point would be 0, negative 6. Okay, let's move on to the next one. They gave us a y value of 3. So we're going to substitute that into the original. So I have 3x minus 2 times 3 equals 12. Start to solve. I have 3x minus 2 times 3 is 6 equals 12. Right? We've been solving equations for a while now. So we know that we're going to go ahead and add 6 to both sides. 6's cancel. Bring down your 3x equals 12 plus 6 is 18. From here, we would go ahead and divide both sides by 3. So x is a positive 6. So this would be 6, 3. Okay? We need to go ahead and do the next value. Next value is 0. So I have 3x minus 2 times 0 equals 12. Start to solve. Well, 2 times 0 is going to cancel and become 0. So we're going to bring down the 3x equals 12. We know we would divide both sides by 3. So x is 4. So here we would have a point of 4, 0. Okay? And we have one more. We have negative 3 that we need to substitute in for x. So I have 3 times negative 3 minus 2y equals 12. Make sure when you're substituting these values in for your variables, you're putting in your sets of parentheses so that this doesn't become 3 minus 3. This is 3 times negative 3. Make sure you remember so it's your multiplication. All right, from here we can go ahead and simplify. 3 times negative 3 is negative 9 minus 2y is 12. From here, we are going to add 9 to both sides so the 9's cancel. Bring down that negative 2y equals 12 plus 9 is 21. And then we would go ahead and divide both sides by negative 2. So y is negative 21 over 2. And I'm okay with you leaving it like that for now, okay? So this is negative 21 over 2. Okay. All right, so they're going to have you complete the table so that we're going to be able to graph here later on. Okay. All right, there's another example of this in the PDF with the notes. Okay, if you need to use that for reference for another problem. Okay, something else they're going to ask you to do is if the following ordered pairs are a solution, okay? So they're going to ask you, which of the following ordered pairs are a solution to y equals 4x plus 1, and they're going to give us ordered pairs of 0, 1, 3, 11, and 2, 9. So what we're going to do here is the same as we did before, but we're substituting in two values this time. We're going to substitute in the y coordinate and the x coordinate, and we're going to solve and see if both sides of the equal sign are the same. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. So we have y equals 4x plus 1. Well, let's look at this first coordinate here. Remember, this is the x, this is the y. So y is equal to 1, so we're going to substitute that in. Now I have 4 times x. X is 0. Plus 1, and we go ahead and solve. Well, 4 times 0 is 0, right? It cancels. So 1 is 1. So that means that, yes, this is a solution, okay? So, yes, this is a solution, okay? Let's go ahead and do the same thing with 3, 11. All right, so we have our x and our y. Our y is 11 equals 4 times our x is 3 plus 1. So we have 11 equals, well, 4 times 3 is 12. 11 equals 12 plus 1 is 13. So no, this is not a solution. So remember the equal sign with the slash through it, not equal to. So no, this is not a solution. Let's go ahead and look at the last one. So we have 2, 9. So y is 9 equals 4 times x. X is 2 plus 1. It's a bad 2. All right, let's do another 2. So 9 equals 4 times 2 is 8 plus 1. So 9 is 9. So yes, this is a solution. Okay, so this is another way, another type of problem they're going to ask you to do. Okay, moving on to something else. They could ask you to graph the equation x plus y is 3. X plus y is 3. We don't have any coordinates, right? They didn't tell us anything. So what you're going to do is you're going to come up with an x coordinate and a y coordinate adds together to give you 3. Okay, so you can come up with various ways of adding two numbers to come up with 3. So if you look at a point like 0, 3, well, 0 plus 3 is 3. So good, that works. We can graph this. Same thing with 3, 0. So let's say the x coordinate was 3, y coordinate was 0. Add those together, you're still coming up with a value of 3. Same thing if you looked at 2 and 1, right? 2 plus 1 is 3. This would work. And you can also reverse it, right? 1 plus 2 still equals 3. And there's a couple others you can throw in there, but you get the point. Now we can go ahead and graph these. So we go ahead and draw this. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, and then we would go ahead and plot those points. So we're going 0, 3 first. So 0 is telling us we're going nowhere, and we're going up positive 3. So here's our first point for our graph. Now we're looking at 3, 0. Well, it's telling us to go to the right 3, but it's telling us to go up and down 0. So it's going to be right here. So there's another point on our graph. Next we have 2, 1. The positive 2 is telling us to go right 2 and up 1. There's another point. And then 1, 2 is telling us to go right 1 and up 2. So I know it's not the straightest on my board, but you would go ahead and connect the dots. You are going to extend the line and add arrows because graphs go on infinitely. Okay, you can put in any kind of number in this equation, not this specific equation, but you can put them in any equation and you can still come up with a graph. Okay, so it goes on infinitely, so make sure you connect the dots, extend the lines, and add the arrows. Okay, Let's see what we want to do next. So continuing on with graphing. Sometimes they're not going to tell you what table to use to graph, right? Before they gave us a table to graph, sometimes they're not going to give that to you. So let's say they gave us the equation y equals 3/2 x minus 3. They want you to use a table. They didn't give it to us. They didn't give us any points. It's already set equal to y, so that makes it easy. So if you came up with x values, you would just be solving for y every time. So that would make it easiest for this particular problem. What you need to be aware of is instead of just picking random numbers like 0, 1, and 2, you want to pay attention to the fraction, okay? We don't like fractions, right? We want to get rid of the fraction. So to do that, you're going to want to come up with values for x that are some multiple of the denominator of 2, okay? So that you get rid of the denominator and you're left with whole numbers. So I would suggest, well, if I want to get rid of a 2, let's use a -2, okay? Because you need at least 3 points to make a graph. I would use 0. 0 is great because you're going to multiply and you're going to get rid of the fraction altogether. And then I would go ahead and use a positive value of 2. So once again, the 2's cancel. Okay? There's other numbers you could use. You could have used 4, 6, 8, 10, so on and so forth. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and substitute those x values in for x and solve for y. So y equals 3/2 times, we have a -2. Remember, when you're multiplying by a whole number in a fraction, make sure your whole number goes over 1, turn it into that fraction. And we still have our -3, just came from here on the outside. So now we're dealing with multiplication of fractions. So remember, you look diagonally and you can cancel. So the 2's cancel and become 1's. Now what you need to make sure you pay attention of here is I have 3 times -1 that's left, okay? So make sure you pay attention to that negative. So y equals -3 minus 3. Also remember our sign rules. When we have this negative here, we'll change it to adding a negative so that y equals -6. All right, so that now is -6. Okay, we're going to do the exact same thing for 0. 0 is nice because it's quick and easy. So I have y equals 3/2 times 0 minus 3. Well, 3/2 times 0 is 0. So y is -3. So 0 is great to use. Now we're left with a +2 that we need to substitute in for x value. So y is 3/2 times whole number 2. Make sure you put it over that 1 for the fractions. And we have our -3. 2's cancel and become 1's. So y is 3 minus 3. So 3 minus 3 becomes 0. So now we have points of -2, -6, 0, -3, and 2, 0 that now we can go ahead and graph. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and erase this. And we're going to go ahead and do our graph together. I'm going to go ahead and use 6 as 6 is our largest. So I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And like I said, I know it's not going to be perfect, but you will have graph paper on the test. All right, so let's go ahead and graph -2, -6. So the -2 is telling us to go to the left 2, and it's telling us to go down -6. There's our first point for the graph. Next we have 0, -3. So we're going to the right and left 0. We're going down -3. There's our second point. And 2, 0 is telling us to go to the right 2 and up 0. So there's our third point. So once again, connect the dots, extend your lines, add your arrows. Okay? So I hope you remember doing that at some point in school. If not, make sure you study. Like I said, we're going to learn various methods, different methods. You'll be able to use which method you're comfortable with, but at least you're going to have a couple options. Okay? So there's another I think like 2 problems like that in your notes that you can use to review. If you need more assistance with this, we're going to go ahead and look at a different graph. All right, so let's say they gave us y equals 2/3 x. So this is similar to what we just did, okay? We want to eliminate that fraction, so I would use some form of 3, right, to go ahead and eliminate it. So I would come up with my xy chart, and I would use -3, 0's great, and a +3, okay, to eliminate that fraction. So now we're going to substitute those values in for x. So I have 2/3 times -3. Make sure that -3 goes over 1. Now we're multiplying fractions, so the 3's cancel, and you are left with y equals, there's 2 times a -1, don't forget the negative, so that's now -2. Okay? Then we have y equals 2/3 times 0. Well, that's great because that cancels and becomes 0. So another point on our graph is going to be 0, 0, and remember that's called the origin. Okay, and we have one more left. We have +3, so y equals 2/3 times +3 over 1. The 3's become 1. When you multiply, you end up with a +2. Okay, so then we have our 3 points that we can go ahead and graph. All right, so let's go ahead and see what that graph looks like. And we're almost done with this section, okay? So let's go ahead and do our graph. 3, 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3. All right, so let's go ahead and look at -3, -2. So we're going to the left 3 and down 2. We're going to 0, 0, so we're going nowhere. That's the origin. There's our next point. And then we're going 3, 2. So 3 to the right, it's positive. Up +2. There's our 3rd point for our graph. Once again, connect the dots, extend the lines, and add the arrows, okay? All right, let's go ahead and look at the last 2 different graphs for this section that you need to be aware of, okay? So let's say they told you to graph x equals 3, okay? So on a rectangular coordinate system, this is going to tell you, right, x tells you to go right and left. So this is telling you to go right 3. And your graph will be vertical, okay? Vertical, okay? So the x tells you to go right and left. So this is telling you to go right 3. It's going to be vertical. If this was a -3, so let's say this was negative, right? Negative in there. Hopefully you can see that. 1, 2, 3 to go to the left 3, and there would be your other graph. Okay? All right. Let's look at another. Let's say they told you to graph y equals -2. Y equals -2. Well, y tells you to go up and down. Okay? Tells you to go up and down. So we are going down -2, and instead of vertical, this graph is going to be horizontal, okay? This is going to be horizontal. Now, if they said this graph was y equals +2, this tells you to go up and down. It's +2, so you're going to go up 2 and make your horizontal graph, okay? Once again, homework is online, okay? The homework is online on Canvas. If you have any questions, please let me know. All right, thanks.